So I'm on vacation. I'm in Singapore. It's a nice, beautiful, bright day. Just started raining, so YouTube video. The question today is, should you spend $20 or should you double down on the budget Chi-Fi market and go for the $40 option? So in the left corner, we have the featherweight champion of the world, the Moondrop Chu. In the right-hand corner, we have the also featherweight but slightly less featherweight champion of the world, the ZEX Crinacle ZEX Pro. Which one's right for you? Well, we'll start off with some of the basics. Build quality and comfort. Oddly enough, the $20 device is actually made out of metal and the $40 device is made out of plastic. The thing about the Moondrop Chu is that it has a non-detachable cable, which means if you're stomping on this out of sheer frustration, or this happens to roll under your car for various reasons, or it's just that the wires have degraded over time because of normal wear and tear, then you're done. This is it. That's going straight into the dustbin and you're gonna have to get yourself a new one. The ZEX Crinacle ZEX Pro though has a detachable cable, which means if something should happen here, you can just switch it out and you've got something that'll potentially last you for years. And to be fair, even though it is made of plastic, it's pretty damn solid. So I don't think build quality is gonna be an issue, but detachable cable might make for a product that'll just last you longer. In terms of comfort though, I have to say, if you've got smaller ears, like teeny tiny ears, then the Moondrop Chu is going to be way better for you. Not only does this fit better, it's supremely comfortable despite it being solid metal, and this is in stark contrast with the ZEX Pro, which honestly is a bit of a behemoth. I mean, just look at this thing. I mean, I've got medium-sized ears or so, I think, and this thing sticks out quite a bit. Put this on small ears and it'll look weird and it might be uncomfortable as well. Now, the shape on both of them is a little bit different, but definitely made to fit a lot of ears. So, food for thought here. Can anyone tell me why Bluetooth IEMs haven't received the memo? I mean, wired IEMs have been supremely comfortable for literally decades now. They've got the shape down. This sort of shape works for pretty much every ear, even for larger IEMs and smaller IEMs, and somehow Bluetooth devices still come in all sorts of weird funky shapes, like they're still experimenting and half of them don't even work very well. I digress. The Moondrop Chu is definitely for small ears. Medium to large ears will be the ZEX Pro. Both of them, as long as they fit you, they're very, very comfortable. Which brings us to the only thing that really matters at the end of the day, warranty. Just kidding. We're talking about sound quality, right? It's not as straightforward as you would think. The Moondrop Chu has a slightly different sound signature, where the ZEX Pro favors a more sort of controlled V-shaped tuning. The Moondrop Chu goes for a little more neutral, more airy tuning. Those highs are a little more pronounced, and therefore female vocals and hi-hats and all those sounds in the upper registers of the audible spectrum, they sound airy, and there's a feeling of space in the Moondrop Chu which you don't get in the ZEX Pro. On the other hand though, bass response is a little more muted. That's not necessarily a bad thing. If you like a little more neutral sound signature with a little bit of air and space and don't mind a slightly hotter treble region, then the Moondrop Chu is actually a very, very good option. Now, there are two things to note. Number one, across the frequency spectrum, there's a similar lack of detail, especially in the bass for both these devices. But really in the mid-range, they both sing quite well. It's just random guy, just never mind, you saw nothing. The Moondrop Chu actually, to me, sounds a little more metallic, little sharp, little more nasal in the vocal region, in the mid section, whereas the ZEX Pro actually sounds better from a timbre point of view, and to me, it just sounds a little more natural. Now, what the ZEX Pro has is a lot more bass response. If you want punchier bass, not necessarily more detailed bass, but punchier bass overall, then the ZEX Pro is definitely going to work for you. And if you compare the highs, yes, it doesn't have as much air and sparkle, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any. It's actually quite good in that region as well. Overall, To cut a long story short, I would say that the primary differences are in the amount of bass you want and whether that metallic timbre is going to affect you or not. If you don't really care about the metallic timbre, if you want a slightly lesser bass presence, then the Moondrop Chu might actually be the better device for you. Having said that, and this is going to come as a solid anticlimax because everyone likes an underdog. Everyone wants the $20 device to punch well above its weight and just destroy the competition. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen because the ZEX Pro is actually a really good device, and I think for most people's listening preferences, this one's going to sound more musical, more dynamic, more lively, if you will. And even though to my ears I perceive just a little more detail and transparency in the mid region, somebody's swimming very loudly, detail. As I was saying, even though the Moondrop Chu has a greater feeling of even though I perceive a greater clarity and transparency in the mid and high range of the Moondrop Chu, I have to say that this was no slouch either. While there's a greater feeling of air here, this one is more dynamic while still not compromising on that feeling of air and sparkle too much. And therefore, if you listen to a lot of pop music, this is actually going to sound better. Now, if you move on from pop and listen to, say, rock or orchestral music and such, you might see the benefit of using the Moondrop Chu over this. But even then, at this price range, I still think the ZEX Pro is just going to be a better all-rounder for you. Which brings us to the proverbial elephant in the proverbial room of this proverbial channel. Now, for those of you who don't know, after KZ brought these out to the market, somebody from one of the audio forums actually took it apart and found out that not all the drivers are doing what they're supposed to. Now, it seems that KZ is obsessed with saying, hey, look, we have 27,000 drivers, $14.90 only. But if all the drivers are not working, then is that really being honest? And even when they were found out, KZ basically did the equivalent of, if we stand really still and we don't make any noise, they won't notice, and then everybody will forget. We didn't forget. At the end of the day, how they handled the situation wasn't great, and if you want to make a decision based on whether you want to encourage that behavior or not, that's your choice. I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but regardless of whether those drivers were working or not, this still sounds the way it's supposed to because the tuning still holds good. It's still dynamic, it's still very nicely tuned, and all of that doesn't change irrespective of how many drivers are working or not, as long as it's working as it is supposed to. So under $50, I still think, despite all its PR nightmares, KZ has basically produced the best all-rounder earphone for under 50 bucks. There are others in the market, but I don't think any of them do quite as many things as well as the KZ Crinacle ZEX Pro. If you're hard stuck $20, or if you like a more balanced sound with a sparklier treble region, then the Moondrop Chu might do good for you. But overall, if you can spend about $37, the ZEX Pro gets my vote of confidence. And that's it for now. The rain will probably stop at some time and I'll probably get to explore this island soon. Speaking of which, I'll make a little vlog thing. We're actually going to go to a mall that is pretty much dedicated to audiophiles, and we're going to go to a fun little we've got stuff coming up, okay? So maybe hit that subscribe, stay tuned. I'll see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste. Are they gone?
Yeah, they can't.
Hi! $20, $37. Which one should you buy today?